Good morning, dear kids and parents. Hope you all are doing very well at your home. Dear kids, today we will be continuing with our fifth chapter, that is separation of substances. In that we had already seen that how we separate the substances, what we do with the substances. Like we separate substances even though both are useful. One is useful, one is not useful. It is an impurity, right? And we had gone through the method of separation also, just the names of the method of separation. Today we will go through the methods of separation in detail, each and every methods of separation. Okay. First one is hand picking. Hand picking. The method of hand picking can be used for separating slightly large sized impurities. Slightly large sized impurities means the impurities which are slightly large, which we can pick it up and separate it with the help of our hand. For example, the pieces of dirt, stones and husk that we find in wheat, grains, different grains and rice and all. Okay. So in that we can see that stones, that dirt very easily, which we can remove it with the help of our hand. So we remove that impurities which are slightly large in size. The quantity of such impurities is not very large. Like the impurities which are there in that are not that large, means that they are not that much in that. There are some of it. In such situation, we find that hand picking is a convenient method of separating substances. So as it is, some of the impurities are there, and that we can remove it easily with the help of our hands. So what we think, it is more convenient, it is more easy to separate that impurities with the help of our hand itself. Okay. Next one is threshing. Bundles of wheat or paddy stalks are kept in the field after harvesting the crop. Once the harvesting of crop is done, the stalks of that wheat or paddy or anything are kept in the field itself. Stalks, you remember what are stalks? The stalks are the stem on which these grains grow. Okay, on which the grains grow, that are stalks. So that stalks, once it is harvested, they are kept in the field itself. Where they are kept in the field to get sunlight and so that it get dried up. So once the stalk get enough of sunlight, they get dried up. And once these stalks are dried up, it is easy to separate grains from the stalk. And in that stalk, there are many grains in it. It is not like some of them are there. Many grain seeds, not different grains, but one type of a grain, but many seeds of that grain. So once harvesting is done, they get it dried up in the sunlight and sun. Okay, and then they separate grains from the stalk. The process to separate the grains from these stalks is called threshing. The process what they do to separate grains and stalks, that is threshing. In this process, the stalks are being beaten to free the grain seeds. Now grain seeds are there in these stalks, right? It is dried up even. Now what they do, they beat the stalks. Why they beat the stalks? So once they beat the stalks, the grains in that stalks will come out. It will be separated. Okay. So to get the grains separated from the stalks, they are beaten up. Sometimes this method is performed with the help of bullocks and machines to thresh large quantity of grain. When there are large quantity of grain that are to be separated from the stalks and it is not easy to be done manually, then what is done? It is done with the help of bullocks or machines. Okay. Next one is winnowing. In this method, the lighter particles are separated from heavier particles. What do you mean by lighter particles and heavier particles? Heavier particles which cannot be blown with the air. Okay. And lighter particles are, they blow with the flow of air. Okay. This method of separating lighter particles from the heavier particles by wind or blowing air is called winnowing. Whenever we separate lighter particles and heavier particles with the help of wind or blowing air, that separation is called winnowing. The normally this method is used by farmers. Okay. The farmers generally use this method to remove lighter husk particles from the heavier seeds of grain. See what happens, the seeds of grains are obviously heavier, and the husk, the covering of that is very light. If the air blows, the husk of that seeds also blows with that. So they use this method to blow husk and keep grain seeds. To separate both of them, they use this. The husk particles are carried away by the wind. When the separating seeds of grain particles and husk with the air, with the blowing of the air, the husk is blown away and seeds remain there. The seeds of grain get separated and form a heap near the platform of winnowing. There is a kind of a platform, a place on which they stand and do this winnowing process, and in that, with the blowing air, with the blowing wind, the husk is blown away and the grains just fall there down and get a heap of it. It becomes a pile of the grains there down itself. Husk is removed and grains are piled up there. Okay. The separated husk is used for many purposes like fodder of cattle. Now the husk that is separated by wind, that is also piled up at a place, right? So that husk, what is it used for? Fodder of cattle. What is fodder of cattle? For the food of cattle. This husk is used for the food of cattle. Okay. Next one is sieving. This method is generally applicable while using flour to prepare a dish. Okay, you know what is flour, right? The flour is the grinded thing of a grain. When the grain is grinding, that thing is a flour. So whenever we prepare any dish, any food using this flour, we use this sieving method. We need to remove impurities that may be present in it. In flour also there can be impurities present in it. Okay, so we need to do the sieving process before using this flour. Sieving allows fine flour particles to pass through the holes of the sieve. Whenever we do the sieving process, the sieve allows the fine flour, means the flour which is good, it allows the fine flour to go through the holes, while the bigger impurity remains on the sieve. Whereas the bigger impurities which are not useful remains on the sieve. Sieve is a kind of thing in that a net is there and small holes are there. Okay, and through that we do the process of sieving. Okay. In a flour mill, impurities like husk and stones are removed from wheat before grinding. Now in flour mill, what they do? Before grinding these grains, they remove the husk and stones with the help of sieve. They are having a big sieve. They just put a bag full of grains on that, on a slanting sieve, and they remove stones, stalks, husk from the remaining, and the stalks and stones which are remaining even after threshing and winnowing, there is a possibility that they are remaining in that. So what they do before grinding that grains into flour, they again do the process of sieving and remove the remaining stones and husk. Okay. Similar sieves are used at construction sites to separate pebble and stones from the sand. If you might have seen any construction place, like there are places where construction is going on. Okay, so that place a person is there who is having that slant thing with small holes of net on it, and what they do, they put sand on it. When they put sand on it, what happens? The pebbles, small pebbles and stones get separated from the sand. Okay, so this process is sieving. Next is sedimentation, decantation and filtration. Sometimes it not be possible to separate components of a mixture by winnowing and hand picking. Sometimes it happens that there are certain mixtures which cannot be separated with the help of winnowing or hand picking. For example, rice and pulses are washed before cooking. When you add water to these, the impurities like dust particles get separated. These impurities go into water. Now if you have seen, when your mother cooks the food, when they use any rice, pulses, what they do? They wash it with water. Whenever they wash it with water, what happens? The dust particles get separated with the water. And whenever water is removed, even the dust particles also gets removed with that. Now what will sink at the bottom? Now see, when rice or any grain is there and it's in the water, what is going to be settled down? Obviously grain, because grains are heavier, right? So what will float on the water? Dust particles. Dust particles will float on the water and grains will settle down there. Of course, now what will settle down? Of course, rice is going to settle and dirty water is removed by tilting the vessel. You might have seen that what mama does, she removes the water and with that water, what is there? Dust particles are there and grains are settled down. Okay. When the heavier component in a mixture settles after water is added to it, the process is called sedimentation. Whenever we do this process, and in that the heavier particle settles down, like the rice is there, so rice settled down. Okay, so even after adding water, the rice settled down, it doesn't start floating. Okay, it settled down. So this process is called sedimentation. When the water with the dust is removed, the process is called decantation. Okay, so the water which we remove with dust particles, that is called decantation. The same principle is used to separate two immiscible liquids. The immiscible liquids means such liquids which cannot be mixed up. Okay, that are immiscible liquids. For example, oil and water. Have you seen ever that oil and water is mixed up? It never gets mixed up. Layer will be formed after a long time, but it never gets mixed up. So oil and water from their mixture can be separated by the same process, because oil floats on water. Okay, so with same process oil can be separated. If a mixture of such liquids is allowed to rest for some time, they form two separate layers. If this mixture is there for a long time, what will happen? They become two different layers of that two different components of two different mixtures. The component that forms the top layer can be separated by decantation. The layer that is on the top can be removed by decantation, means it can be removed in a flow. Okay, like the water with dust particles was removed from rice. Okay, after preparing tea, what do you do to remove tea leaves? We already saw in last video, right, that to remove tea leaves and to separate tea liquid, what we do, we use a strainer. We use a strainer to remove the tea leaves. This process of separating tea leaves from tea using a strainer is called filtration. When we separate these tea leaves from tea, that process is called the filtration. Okay. Next one is evaporation. The process of conversion of water into its vapor is called evaporation. Conversion means to convert. When a water is converted into vapor, that process is called evaporation. The process of evaporation takes place continuously whenever water is present. Means wherever the water is stored, like small puddles, lakes, rivers, wherever water is there, the process of evaporation is always continuous. It always goes on. Sea water contains many salts mixed in it. You might be aware about it that sea waters are salty. So there are many salts in sea water. One of these salts is the common salt. One of them is a common salt. When sea water is allowed to stand in a shallow pit means a small pit in which sea water is allowed to be there. Water gets heated by sunlight. What will happen? Water will get heated by sunlight and slowly turns into water vapor. After heating, what will happen? It will start turning into water vapor through evaporation, and it will start getting evaporated. In few days, the water evaporates completely. After some days, you will see that there is no water. It will completely evaporate, leaving behind the solid salt. Obviously, salts are not going to get evaporated. What will happen? Water will first it will get heated, then the process of evaporation starts by evaporating the water into vapor, and after some days all the water from that puddle will be evaporated. What will remain? There will be solid salts remaining in that. Okay. Common salt is then obtained from this mixture of salt by further purification. After the solid salts are found, after that some purifications are done in that, and from that we get the common salt. Okay. Next is condensation. The conversion of steam or vapor into water or liquid form, it is known as condensation. The conversion of steam or vapor. When a steam or vapor is converted into liquid form or water, that is called condensation. What was evaporation? That liquid was converted into vapor. That was evaporation. Now when vapor or steam is converted into liquid form or water, that is called condensation. Okay, both are vice versa. For example, we need to separate salt and water from the decanted liquid. There is a decanted liquid and it's a mixture of a salt and water. Now we need to separate them. What we need to do? Transfer this water into a kettle and close its lid. Don't forget to close the lid. Okay, we need to close the lid so it is covered up. Heat the kettle for some time. We need to heat that. We will observe steam coming out from the spout of the kettle. From the spout, the steam will start coming out. Okay. Take a metal plate. You need to take a metal plate with some ice on it, ice cubes on it. Okay. Hold the metal near the spout of the kettle. Near the spout of the kettle from where the steam is coming out, you need to hold that metal plate near that spout where the steam is coming out. We will observe that when the steam comes out in contact with the metal plate, cooled ice, it condenses and forms liquid. When the steam is coming out on that metal plate and the ice cubes are kept on that, what will happen? Ice cubes are converted into liquid form. After all, water is evaporated, salt remains at the bottom of the kettle. Now it is heated, it has converted into steam, steam has converted that ice into liquid, water is already evaporated in that. Okay, so what will remain in the kettle? Soil particles will remain in the kettle. Okay, so that is condensation. Now next one is saturation. In previous chapter we studied that many substances dissolve in water and form a solution, and they are known as soluble substances. You know what are soluble substances? the one which can dissolve in water and form a solution, that are soluble substances. Okay. What if we add more about of the substances in water? What will happen if we add more substances of the water? Let us understand with an example. I'll give you one example and we'll understand with that what is saturation. Okay. Pour half cup of water in a beaker. Half cup of water we need to pour it in a beaker. Add 1 spoonful of salt. 1 spoonful means 1 tablespoonful of salt we need to add in that water, in that half cup of water, and stir it well, to mix it well, okay, until it dissolves completely. It should get dissolved completely. Salt particles should not be seen in that. Okay. Again add 1 teaspoonful of salt and stir it well. Add 1 more tablespoonful of salt and again mix it well, stir it well. Go on adding salt, 1 teaspoonful at a time, and stir. Go on adding that salt in that. Go on adding, stirring unless and until it dissolves. Go on adding, stirring unless it dissolves. We need to do this. Okay. After adding a few spoonfuls of salt, we can observe that some salt remains undissolved and settles at the bottom of the beaker. After some spoonfuls, what we will see, after certain time, the salt will not dissolve fully. There will be some particles remaining and it won't be dissolved, and it will settle down at the beaker, at the bottom of the beaker. Okay. When no more salt can be dissolved in the amount of water we have taken, then this type of solution is called saturated solution. We were going on adding salt, right? But after a certain point of a time, what will happen? Salt will not dissolve. The amount of water which we have taken is not sufficient, so that it cannot be dissolved anymore. So that thing, that salt which cannot be dissolved in the amount of water we have taken, this type of a solution is called a saturated solution. Okay. So thank you so much, dear kids and parents. Stay home, stay safe. Thank you.